Hi, everyone. We're just waiting a few minutes. We are recording this. This is the fifth and final session for the Cooperative Month through the Cooperative Maine Business Alliance on retirement plans. We'll start in a second. We'll go ahead and get started. It's 11:02. Thanks for joining us and your eagerness to learn about retirement plans for your employees as co-ops. Today's topic is securing your future, understanding Maine's state-run IRA, the Merit program. We also have a great partner who's going to present through the U.S. Federation of Worker Co-ops on another option that you can explore as a cooperative. You don't have to be a worker co-op to join the U.S. Federation of Worker Co-ops to use their employee benefits programs. So we're really happy to have another option for you all to consider. So, and I apologize, I have a bit of a cold, so I'll try to speak up and speak clearly. I'm happy to introduce, we could go to the next slide, I think. Where are the names? I'm happy to introduce Cameron Monaghan from CEI, who will talk about the merit program that's specific to Maine, all employers of a certain size, as well as George Guerrero from the CEO of Just Futures, who is partnering with the U.S. Federation of Worker Co-ops to offer retirement plans to cooperatives throughout the country. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Cameron.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for attending, and thank you all for having me to kind of talk about this. It's really important, this program that's being rolled out. There's certain compliance issues. As Chris said, businesses over a certain size have to register with this. And it's also an option for individuals to register, if they want to. So the more people that are aware of it, the better. I'll just kind of start off talking about, what is merit? What does merit mean? Basically, this is a state-run Roth IRA program that will be mandatory for businesses with 5 or more employees who currently do not offer any type of retirement savings plan. So the state had done a study that found that 78% of small businesses in the state of Maine that have under 15 employees were not offering any workplace retirement savings, right? And that's an issue for a couple of reasons. The same study listed that people who were offered retirement through work were 15 times more likely to have retirement savings. And we all know, people who hope to retire and only rely on Social Security, that's oftentimes not enough to get by. And Social Security has, a rocky political future ahead of it. So to be able to save on your own using a program like a Roth IRA, contributing directly out of your paycheck is a huge advantage. And then the other side of that is that there's a huge gap between large employers who are able to offer these things and small businesses who aren't. And it makes it difficult for small businesses to be competitive and attract talent versus larger businesses that are able to offer plans. So the state was hoping that this would help bridge that gap between people who have access to workplace retirement savings at small businesses versus, traditional, more expensive, larger firms that offer these plans. And it does this by creating a Roth IRA, which is a post-tax individual retirement account that employees will automatically be enrolled in if their business is required to register, and contributions will come directly out of their paychecks. It's a public-private partnership with a investment company called Vestwell, and the program officially starts on January 1st, 2025. But registration has been open for, almost like since April of 2024. And the program is up and running. It's effectively live. The January launch date really only pertains to when you have to be in compliance, if this applies to you, when, you'll have to start worrying about enrolling or paying fines. So if your business is required to register, or if you're an individual who is interested in creating an account for yourself, now is the time to do it because the program is effectively up and running, right? So it's better to just go ahead and get that over with. Um, so we can go to the next slide here. And I'll start off by just kind of talking about, the business perspective. Like, what does this mean if, you're in management at your co-op, or and you're kind of in charge of compliance stuff? Uh, the basics are that this is a program that applies to businesses that have 5 or more employees and currently do not offer any retirement plan. So if you offer a simple IRA, or a SEP IRA, or a 401k, 403b, anything like that, you're good. You can opt out of this program. You've already met that requirement for the state of offering a competitive program. And we'll hear more about some of those programs later from George as to what you can offer outside of merit, which is great. But if you don't, and you have more than 5 employees, you will be required by the state to register. And what qualifies as an employee is anyone who receives a W-2. So, if you are like in this case of a co-op, right? I mean, you're also the business owner partially. If you receive a W-2, that counts towards your employee number. Something important to consider, and how this kind of varies from traditional or other workplace retirement plans, is that under merit and with any Roth IRA, businesses are not allowed to contribute towards the employee's retirement. 100% of these contributions will be coming out of the employee's paycheck and put into their own account. So, the big difference between this program and if I were to go to like Bangor Savings Bank or Bath Savings and set up my own Roth IRA is just that it's automatically coming out of my paycheck, which is a huge advantage, and it makes people way more likely to contribute. Removing that step of, getting my paycheck, it goes in my bank account, and then I decide to contribute later on. But the business will not be contributing and cannot contribute even if you want to. It's prohibited under federal law. So the real, responsibility of the business in this case is to register the company, upload a roster of all of the W-2 employees, and set up the payroll deductions or contributions. You will basically upload a list that includes the employees' names, phone numbers, social security numbers, addresses, and email addresses. And you'll have to update that as you hire, as people leave, as they change the amount that they want to contribute. And we'll kind of talk about what the employee side looks like on the next slide. But if they go in and I change my contribution from 4% of my paycheck to 7%, that needs to be reflected in the payroll, right? So that's going to fall on someone who manages payroll at your co-op to update that information. And another important thing too is that this program does not have any fees to register, which is nice, obviously, for businesses that are small and may not be have a bunch of money, right, to be paying out fees for things that are mandated by the state. The person at your business who is responsible for registering, once you should have received an access code. They sent them out first back in January of 2024. But some people didn't get them, or some people lost them. You will go onto the website, enter your access code if you have it. If not, you can enter with the tax ID number, EIN, and you'll upload this roster of employees. You'll register your business, and that starts a 30-day period in which your employees then have a window to open their own accounts and to select how much they want to contribute or opt out of the program entirely. So, whoever at your co-op is going to manage this process or is in charge of this process, it's really important that you communicate with your employees. They'll get an email once you upload their information that, hey, you've been registered, your employer has registered for merit, open your account, make any contribution changes you want. But it's oftentimes people miss emails. I miss them all the time, and emails are a big part of my job. So, if you're working at a food co-op, you might not be looking out for emails from your employer about retirement if you don't really know what's going on. So, it's really important that you communicate with your employees, make sure that they're aware of that 30-day timeline, and that kind of what's on them to do. So, next we'll talk about if you work for one of these businesses. what is that like for you? I mean, what is the employee experience in this process? So if I'm an employee at a co-op and the co-op is registered, I started the 30-day countdown, I get my email. If I do nothing, if I just, ignore it and uh, decide like, whatever, I don't want to bother with that. After that 30-day window runs out, 5% of your paycheck will automatically go to this Roth IRA without you doing anything. So if you don't lift a finger, 30 days after your business registers, your next paycheck is going to have 5% going towards a Roth IRA. It'll automatically open using the information that was uploaded with the roster, and it'll stay at 5% unless you change it. So, and further too, it'll actually increase annually by 1% until it gets to 10, and then it will stop automatically increasing. And that's if you do absolutely nothing. That was a big, intent of this program was to make it kind of set and forget, and to get people to, like basically, if you don't do anything, you'll automatically be signed up for workplace retirement savings. If you want to either opt out entirely or change your contribution percentage from 5, maybe you're more comfortable starting out at 2 or 3 or 7 or 8, right? You will need to create an account on the website using that link that is sent to you, or just registering yourself. You will use the business's access code that's shared with you, hopefully by management. But again, it's okay if you don't have that readily available. There are ways to register on the website by using social security number and your employer's tax ID number and stuff like that. And once you do that, you're free to make any changes you want, any percentage contributions. You can increase, decrease, opt out entirely. But the important thing is just that you have that 30-day period where you will not be getting charged, or you won't be contributing in that 30-day window. And that's the time where you can kind of go in and set up your account before the program you start to see that in your paycheck. One important thing too for employees is that since this is a Roth IRA, the contributions are post-tax. So that's something to keep in mind. And this Roth IRA is pretty, one benefit that this has over just going to a bank and setting up your own, is that the benefit of payroll contributions can carry from employer to employer that offers merit. So if I work at a job that has 5 employees registered for merit, and then I quit and go to another job that offers merit through the state program, I get to keep my same Roth IRA, no rollover, and I still get that benefit of direct contributions out of my paycheck. We can go to the next slide here. Yeah, this is just kind of a quick view of a screenshot that I took of the website. I'll send it in the chat just so everyone has it. But maybe there we go. It's meritsaves.com. And if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see this page. On the left, this is where, the people who will be in charge of registering the business will go. You will click register this business, enter the code if you have it. If not, that's okay too. You'll upload your roster here. It can be in an Excel document, or you can use the form that they have on the website directly. Put in all that employee information that's required. It's also the same place you'll go if you're an individual who is looking to set up an account for themselves. Key point of that is everyone in the state's allowed to do that. And the benefit there is, again, if you end up working at a business that offers merit, you can opt into those payroll contributions, or those, the payroll contributions. The downside is that if your business isn't registered and you are just registering as an individual, you cannot benefit from them immediately. In order to get the payroll contributions, the business needs to be enrolled in managing that payroll aspect of it. But this is also the same place you would go if you do work at an employer that offers merit. You would set up your own account here, and you would manage, your contributions, all of that. I've done it myself. I registered as an individual just so I could kind of have a better idea of what the process was like for people, and it's relatively straightforward. It's the same information you'd need to open a retirement account, anywhere else. But again, an important thing is that this program is really intended to just encourage individuals to start contributing their own money to a retirement account, a Roth IRA, right? If you as an employer want to kind of have a competitive hiring advantage, or you want to contribute to your employees because you're invested in your employees and you want the business to be making that contribution, this program is not ideal for you. There are far better alternatives out there, that George will get into, right, in much more detail. Uh, Basically, effective January 1st, every business with 5 or more employees will be offering this. So technically, on their job descriptions and stuff, they can say we're offering retirement savings. So it'll be a huge advantage if you have a plan that has matching or company contributions. So that's kind of it for merit. I hope that was like, it's a lot of information, right, about who's eligible, how do I register, all that stuff. Um, Feel free to ask any questions, but I think we're good to pass it over to hear some of the other things that you can do that are outside this program that will make it so that you can opt out of merit and not offer it. So
Yeah. Thanks, Cameron. I was wondering if I could ask you one question
yeah.
that's relevant, and I think it's worth repeating. Can you talk about the advantage of what a Roth IRA is versus just a regular IRA, and why Maine chose that? I think is a good reason, um, because of what happens on the back end, basically.
Yeah, so I also not to kind of like give you a politician answer or anything, but I will not say like outright if Roth or traditional is better. It kind of depends on like what works for you and when you want to pay your taxes, right? But you can opt into a traditional IRA through Merit as well. So
Okay,
the Roth is default. Again, if you just do nothing, but during your setting up of the account, you can choose a traditional IRA. So kind of the benefit of the Roth IRA is you pay your taxes on the payroll, like at the point of receiving the money up front. You put it into it, and then later on down the road when you take it out, you don't pay taxes on it. It's done, right? You don't have to worry about it. So I think that's probably why they went with that. Is just like, hey, we're gonna get it over with, and then later on down the road, you don't have to worry about it because you've already paid the taxes on that. Um, the downside is, it's not deductible when you do your taxes at the end of the year or anything like that. But you do have that choice to also opt into a traditional IRA. So
great.
if you do research on your own about kind of what plan works for you. If you would rather um, go with a traditional or a Roth, you can do that using Merit. So
Great. And one
yeah.
question that's come through, Cameron, but if you don't mind, George,
Yeah.
um, are you? I guess not you, Cameron, at CEI, because you're just helping
Mm.
folks get ready. But is State of Maine, partnering with financial institutions to help get the word out, but also set these things up? Most here in we use ADP, which is a national payroll company, but I think a lot of folks use Bangor Savings or the local banks. Is the state of Maine partnered with those financial institutions to help set these up?
Yeah, so I'll send this link. I'll have to pull it up, but while George is talking, I'll actually send the link so people can access it. There's a list of all the companies that they partner with, and it's I think it's over like 250, and they have tiers of
So good.
integration. So there's like full integration, which means that um you can basically do all of this just through your payroll provider that you're already using. And then there's like semi-integration, which is um that I think if you register like independently on Merit's website, then if somebody updates their contribution, it'll automatically do it into your payroll provider. But again, I mean, it's quite a few, and a lot of the big ones are on there. Um, so I don't have that list ready, but they are making that effort, and public information on the website, kind of which ones are already fully integrated. And I talked with the director of the program, Beth Bordowitz, on Monday, and she said that they have a lot more that they're trying to figure out like the details of, right? Like how basically you can just use your payroll provider as the one-stop shop for Merit too, like managing it, so you don't have to kind of bounce between websites and you know spend time doing that and stuff. So uh, they are certainly aware of that, and they are making that effort. Quite a few are already on board and fully integrated. Will send the link or to where you can see that list and if it's on there. And they also have a really quite I think the hours are pretty good until like 8 p.m. maybe every day helpline for employers and employees that you can call and ask those more specific questions, right? Or if you have
Great.
issues registering or you have issues with your payroll provider who says they're integrated but they aren't. So yeah, they definitely are making an effort to be aware of that and offer that as an option.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cameron. Great. So, George, take it away and tell us all about the option that employers could use that's sort of beyond merit, that they could offer some contributions in addition and some other options. I think that's what we want to offer. So, take it away, George. Just Futures
No,
next.
thank you. And thank you, Cameron, for that segue, right? Because it's, ultimately merit represents a sort of ground floor where you can, provide a level of retirement benefits. What I want to give you a view for is what you can do, beyond that. Sometimes maybe more feature rich, right? For example, if you're looking to make contributions, to your employees on top of what they're contributing, this pathway, opening up a 401k or 403b, depending on what makes sense for you, might be the best path. But let me take a step back, give you a sense of who we are. Just Futures is a people color owned investment advisory firm accountable to social justice values, which is probably not a sentence you've heard uttered before. But we are different, and we take a great deal of pride in how we set ourselves apart. Each of our three business lines is a reflection of our culture and focus on values. Our retirement saving solutions, which is central to our discussion today, prioritizes community well-being, equity, and justice with low-fee access to investing. More feature-rich way of providing retirement benefits, for your employees. All under the belief that everyone deserves to retire with dignity. Our asset management solutions align investment management of reserves or endowment assets with organizational missions and values. And our impact fund management solutions empower nonprofit organizations to catalyze what's called integrated capital by taking on some of the operational administrative burdens that come with investing in a private investment fund. Next slide, please. Our mission is to deliver financial solutions that support a just transition to a regenerative economy. For those who might not be familiar with the concept of just transition, it's a move away from an economic system that's grounded more in extraction and towards one that is more regenerative, cooperative, and restorative. I mentioned that we are different as an organization. We are a public benefit corporation. So we're not just accountable to our shareholders, but also to our public benefit, which articulates a deep alignment with social justice movements, and in particular, support of historically marginalized communities. This intentionality is also reflected in our ownership and governance structure, which you can read more about on our website. Our partnership with the U.S. Federation of Worker Cooperatives. If you're familiar with USFWC, there are a network of cooperatives, membership network, that cooperatives, you don't have to be a cooperative to join, actually. And part of what they offer are access to worker benefit programs. For many years, they provided access to great programs covering dental, vision, other forms of insurance. And just this year, they added on a much requested benefit for employees around retirement. Part of the reason they held off is they wanted to have a partner that imbued the sort of values that USFWC hold dear. And so we're very proud of this partnership. So you can, if you're a USFWC member, please reach out and find out more. You don't have to necessarily be a USFWC member to work with us. Contact us directly through the website, and we'll be happy to get started. But to give you a view for what that looks like and expand upon what Cameron had alluded to, we are a turnkey solution for employers to provide 401k, 403b retirement solutions for your employees. And Cameron mentioned Vestwell as the partner. They're also our partner in our solution set. Vestwell provides much of the administrative aspect of running an investment plan. So they provide an online platform, which we'll take a look at in a second, do all the required reporting to the government agencies and all the record keeping that's requisite as a plan sponsor. On the left side, we are the investment advisor. So we put together we conduct the portfolio management side of things. We put together the plan, select the funds that are part of your plan, and help you design the structure of your plan. Cameron made mention of the possibility to make contributions through employers through 401k solutions. So we'll give you a view for what options are available in that sense, help you think through how that comes to bear and the decisions that you might make relative to your budget, and everything in between. We also provide employee training. One of the important factors that inspired us to create Just Futures is to make the topic of retirement savings more accessible to people. The financial services infrastructure at large really hasn't done a great job in creating a level of understanding for the common individual. In these United States of America, the burden of securing our well-being in retirement is placed on our shoulders. And finance can be hard. Investment can be confusing, intimidating. And we want to make that more accessible to everybody who works with us. Next slide, please. So this is a view of what your platform would look like that's provided again through Vestwell. It's a modern platform that has all the trappings that you might expect to see in a modern financial service portal. Through this, you'd engage with your account, setting the amount that you would contribute, make selections on how you might invest, which I'll get into a second. Track your investments in terms of its performance, the different movement of assets, and as well track your contributions over the course of a given year. Next slide, please. So this is an overview and perspective for how to invest. And so we're very intentional about making these options available, to you. Maybe in contrast to, the merit, you have to make all those choices yourself. And so here, a little bit of hand-holding will be involved. Again, you can work with us, interact with us directly on a one-on-one basis to help guide you in this decision-making. The three options that you have available to you, age-based, risk-based, custom, they're organized on the screen here in the terms of engagement, left to right. All the way on the left, hands-off, age-based, if those of you who are watching are familiar with the concept of target date portfolios. These are managed accounts managed by us at Just Futures. The profile of risk across the years, the idea being that the closer you get to retirement, the allocations or level of risk in your portfolio is adjusted downwards, less risk as you get closer to retirement, and we'll do all of that for you. Again, relative to your target date of retirement. Contrast that on the right-hand side, custom, you kind of choose your own adventure. You can act as the portfolio manager for yourself across a suite of 30+ different funds. So you can maybe allocate 20% to fund ABC, 10% to fund DEF, all according to you as a participant's own perspective and view on what's important for you and what you want to prioritize. Obviously, you need to be comfortable to make those sorts of choices. Again, if it makes sense for you, you have that option. In the middle, if risk-based, which is a static allocation to stocks and bonds. So maybe 70% stocks, 30% fixed income, 80-20, 90-10. And this is appropriate for an individual who might have a view on the level of risk that they want to have in their portfolio and want to manage that more actively. Again, a spectrum of choice in terms of how you might want to invest. Next slide, please. So this is an overview of our investment process, and it begins through a fiduciary lens. We're a fiduciary to our clients, which is a fancy way of saying that we have an ethical and legal responsibility to act in your best interest, right? And we take that responsibility very seriously. This is your nest egg. And you're relying on these assets to be there to support you when you reach retirement. So we evaluate the broad spectrum, available spectrum of exchange-traded funds and mutual funds, which are the most common type of vehicle within a retirement plan. And we're evaluating on multiple qualitative and quantitative factors, some of which you see on the screen. And we're lifting up the upper quartile performers across different asset classes, again, to identify these higher performing funds across these qualitative and quantitative factors. And it's on those upper quartile performers that we then apply the value screen. Next slide, please. And the value screen itself cuts across multiple layers. We're looking at the mutual funds and exchange-traded funds themselves, evaluating them across 79 distinct values metrics, again, lifting up on that criteria those that rate well within those values metrics. And those values metrics cut across things you're familiar with, right? Climate change, racial justice, LGBTQ rights, weapons exposure, firearms, tobacco. Again, 79 different distinct measures. We're also looking at the underlying holdings of these mutual funds and exchange-traded funds, the individual stocks and bonds that are held inside of it. And we're sensitive to the exposures of certain companies and sectors that are movement partners and movement research help inform us on its negative impact to people and planet. We're also screening the asset management firms that issue these mutual funds and exchange-traded funds. We're looking at the way their level of influence, how they manage and position their portfolio, and in particular, how they vote the shares on the companies that they own, which is a reflection of governance and their belief system and how they interact with that. Because of that, as a matter of course, there are certain asset management firms that we simply won't platform. So companies like Vanguard, BlackRock, and Fidelity, because of the long history and influence on certain positions in companies, we simply won't use them. One point that we like to make, this is not a magical 100% unicorn values aligned solution. That's simply not possible in the capitalistic landscape. But what we do provide is a level of transparency to our process and the exposures that you have in your invested assets. Next slide, please. But we're here to support you, throughout our entire process, right? So again, in contrast to what you might experience in Merit, you have partners in us to guide you through the decision-making, think through the types of benefits that you might want to make available to your employees, how you might want to structure them, different feature sets that are available within the 401k structure, and guidance on topics like Roth and traditional, which was lifted up a few minutes back. And maybe when I'm done here, I can open up the rabbit hole and provide a little more commentary on the differences between the two, if it makes sense to do so. But we're here to hold your hand, both ourselves and Vestwell, in providing this level of servicing, to your employees.
Awesome, George. Thanks so much. We're actually doing really well on time. So on the fly, we're going to ask for a special guest star to come on, who's very much part of our group. John Crane, he's the GM of the Portland Food Co-op. And since we had time, I thought I might ask John to talk about Portland Food Co-op's own journey to think about this very important issue, how you all assessed the issue. John went through the process of all the different options out there. This is before Merit, of course, but how did you decide what to go with? Who helped you? And then how's it going now? Like, how, roughly how many employees are using it? Or do you have a goal of getting 100% participation, that sort of thing? Yeah. And then I think we'll go to questions after that. I do have some questions as well for you all. Yeah, we have some time. Thanks.
All right. Well, thanks for asking, Chris. I guess the first thing I want to say is, boy, I wish I had listened to this webinar a few years ago when I was in this process. our cooperative started about 10 years ago and went the first 6 years without any type of retirement plan. And it's something that I did not actually know much about. And so just started asking questions. And boy, like just the basic information, I was like, if I had just had that starting out, it would have been so helpful because I was just asking folks that I knew or calling up people, just doing cold calls. Do you offer retirement plans? For at the time, we only had maybe about 30 employees. And not all of them were ready to participate or even thinking about retirement. So, and not a lot of, I didn't find a lot of the firms, at least that I was talking to, was willing to even engage in a conversation. We were too small. I knew I wasn't looking at a 401k at the time, just because of the reporting requirements and things like that. But what I want to say, I think what I would encourage everyone as you start out, and if you are starting out on this, is start with your team now and explain why this is so important. I had a lot of problem with buy-in. I have a fairly young staff here who thought retirement is something that's happening 50 years from now. The world's not going to exist, so why should I even bother? I got the whole range of sort of doomsday scenarios of why saving for your retirement was not something that they were even interested in. I've managed to turn that around a little bit, and I think we have about 15 people out of a staff of 40 contributing right now. And so that is something, it's something I appreciate the state of Maine being kind of proactive in saying, you got to actively say no, or we're going to actually get you dead going down this road. But I will say I have found for us starting out with simple IRAs was a really low bar, easy path to get into. And for me, the business, and when this was happening, I did not have an HR administrator, or I was the HR administrator. I now have someone helping me do that. But getting people onboarded is fairly straightforward. And the great thing about a simple IRA is that the investment, the account is always belongs to the person. And so when they leave, there is no exit plan. It's theirs. They can't keep contributing to it unless they find another employer who is also offering a simple IRA, but there are ways to roll it over into other investment forms. So very easy to get someone signed up, and when they choose to move on, they just take it with them. And so there are very few reporting requirements. So something like that is very easy to manage. I work with, actually here in Maine, the Allen Financial Group, who I believe are out of Rockport. They work with a lot of cooperatives in Maine. They were the first ones who, like, because of our size, were actually willing to work with me, and they actually already understood the cooperative model. I am so happy and learning so much about a wide range of other opportunities. And I have to say, I have never heard words investment, perm, social responsibility sort of all grouped together in the same phrase. And I think there's going to be a lot of excitement knowing that our cooperative community and some of the people who are going to be watching this webinar, that there are a variety of options, and you don't have to completely sacrifice your value-driven mission in order to plan for retirement, that there are options out there. So I'm going to be thinking about that more down the future as we grow, and we're at 40 employees now, and I'm looking at making our retirement options more robust. Very happy to know that there are other options.
That's awesome, John.
All we want in life is options.
Yeah,
That's right.
exactly.
That's right. Yeah, I've mentioned that to you all before, but we at the Cooperative Fund use a simple IRA too, and it's nice for small employers of, I think 50 employees or less, who just don't have that HR team, administrator, and all the costs and reporting. I'm part of a board of a health center, and we meet every 6 months with our plan administrator. I'm the treasurer, and we have to go over as a fiduciary to go over the plan. What are the returns? It's a lot of work, and I know there's a lot of. I just attend those calls every 6 months or so, but I know the HR team spends a lot of time on that 401k plan or 403b for nonprofits. But I wanted to ask George and Cameron and John, feel free to jump in. So we know the minimum, like if you're 5 employees or less or more, you have to sign up for merit, or you have to sign up for a different plan, like a simple IRA or what George is offering. If I'm not sure, if I know that I'm not sure if merit is where I should start or if I should do something else, what would you all recommend for someone who just doesn't know how to get started? Like, where would you send them? Would they come talk to you about the options? Sort of how, as an employer, what would be a good way to sort of go through that decision-making process?
I mean, I'll start and just simply say that come talk to us. Right, part of why we created Just Futures is, again, to make it more accessible to everybody, employees, plan sponsors, someone who runs a business. It's scary, right? As we've just been talking about, it's intimidating. John, you mentioned your experience at the beginning, like you wish you had more facts to go on. It's tough, and you're all wearing like a million different hats, and somehow you're meant to understand the maze of rules from the Department of Labor, the IRS, and navigate all that, figure out your budget. Does this make any sense? And try to be competitive to attract and maintain your talent. We're here in part to take some of that burden off of you, to help make you smart about these decisions. We don't have any minimum in terms of size of organization. So even if you're below 5, we have some clients of that size. We're here to help you, help to give perspective. You may not decide to work with us, but that's fine. Part of how we see ourselves and our mission, right, is again to make that bridge to the broad world of options that are available, which include those that have a values component to it.
Yeah, and I'll just add to sort of the same point of just like, what about us, right? Like, think about us. CEI does do completely free small business advising, and we'll help some Maine small businesses that sit down, look at their business plan, look at their financials, right? If you want to contribute, can you afford it, right? What percentage can you start out a simple IRA at, right? Can you comfortably give 2% to all employees, right? Stuff like that. We'll sit down, help you through that. My team at CEI Workforce Solutions, we primarily, we talk a lot about benefits packages, health insurance, paid time off, all that stuff. Completely free, right? And it doesn't have to be us. So there's tons of small business advising opportunities out there for small businesses to look for. So something local, if you already have a small business advisor, I think mention it to them, and they can help you, maybe get connections. And obviously, yeah, George is a great option, right? Somebody who knows this stuff in and out and does it every day. Like it's there should be no expectation, right, on business owners or small cooperatives that are so busy with everything else, right, to sit down and like, I'm gonna read Nerd Wallet for 40 hours, right? Like normal people don't do this, right? So rely on others who are already in that space, are aware of kind of what's going on, what's best for you, and utilize those relationships, I guess, is kind of my recommendation.
That's great. Cameron, George brought something up, and I think the answer is yes. But let's say we have there are co-ops out here that, the rule of thumb is you need at least 3 individuals to start a co-op. So technically, you can have a co-op of 3 to 4 members, and I know of a few. Can they be proactive and sign up for merit even if they don't have to?
So, unfortunately, the answer that I have got from the program is no.
Okay.
That they, due to a interpretation of federal law and questions about the way the legislation is written, they worry that by voluntarily registering, opting in, it might just create some legal questions about fiduciary relationship with the employer and the employees. But they're trying to figure that out, right? This is a very new program. They have a board, they're They just wrapped up their like rules making process and kind of fleshing out everything. I would say, you know, keep posted, but currently the answer that I've gotten from the program is that no, they will not be sent an access code, and that the program really is for 5 or more. So
Okay, but maybe it might evolve as they
yeah,
learn
I mean,
it. Yeah.
hopefully, like I for instance, Beth Bordowitz, the executive director, I talked to her, and she said like her dream scenario, right, would be to bring it down to 3, because that pretty much covers so many bit. Like other than that, right, if it's 1 or 2 people, they may be in the family, and then you could set up an individual account for yourself, right? And I would also say again, like employees at that place could still set up the individual account, and then if they expand to 5, you could kind of then register the business, and then you use the same Roth IRA you've started as an individual. Then you can do the payroll contributions thing. But yes, currently you cannot opt in if you are under 5.
Yeah, and if you're a sole proprietor, if you're one person, I've been an independent consultant myself, and there's plenty of options. It's usually one that I use was SEP IRA,
That IRAs.
and you can contribute for yourself you're basically the business owner.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay, that makes sense. One of the things that John said raised a question for me for everybody is, does the employee base matter in terms of how you make decisions about what you offer? John mentioned having a young employee base. You know, you can imagine age, families, all those kinds of things play into your retirement decisions. How much does that play into what an employer should choose? Or should they just be aware of it and sort of bring it to you or bring it to Merit? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just say kind of with any benefits discussion, I mean, we have these conversations all the time about health insurance, particularly, right? Um, are your employees going to use it, right? Is an important thing to think, right? I mean, obviously, you know, as an employer, if you are invested in your employees and you're investing in your community and stuff, and you want to be a good boss, you want to offer these programs, right? You don't want to offer programs that no one's going to use and that might, you know, hurt you in the long run, though. So that's something to think of, right? And I think it kind of depends on the size of the business and the culture that you have there. If you are comfortable talking to them outright, like, hey, if I sign up for Merit, are you going to give 5%? I mean, you know, you might have to by law, right, for that one. But if I'm going to create like a simple IRA, you know, are you going to contribute if we do a match, or is that something you're not going to do, right? Would you prefer that we do a flat across the board at like 2, which would be potentially less contribution over the year, but you know, you wouldn't have to do it. I think just conversations like that, if possible, those are good to have. If you're a larger business, that becomes more difficult, but it also increases the likelihood that people will use the program if there's more people. So that's kind of my take on it. Just I think it's good to know. Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. John?
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, much in the way Cameron described it, a lot depends on the culture of the organization. We have clients that propagated the decision to work with us or to start up a retirement plan across their employee base. As you might imagine, right? That brings up all sorts of different challenges potentially. But doing so intentionally and knowing and understanding your team and how it might react to different forms of decision making should be part of that thinking.
I think it's a really important conversation, something that I didn't think through then, but now I fully understand that it's not going to work if you just sort of drop, here's a retirement option for you, because without understanding people's relationship to money, relationship to the wider economy, where they feel like their place is in the economy, there's so much personal dialogue about this that an employer can't know, but you've got to be sensitive to. Trust or distrust of financial institutions, barriers to financial institutions. I mean, I have staff who have like 0 credits because of bankruptcy or things and have just shied away from any relationship with anybody, thinking it's all just going to get snatched from them. There's so much that we don't, our relationship with the economy, everyone has a different one, and we've got to sort of respect that in the conversation. Once I started figuring that out and offering some sort of sensitivity classes around that and some financial literacy around what this actually is. Being able to say, because we're offering an IRA, this is your money. This is not our money. We can't take this away from you. And honestly, because we do the 3% match for everybody's country who contributes up to 3%, saying this is extra money that we are giving you. And granted, you can't spend it now, but when you retire, you will have it. And it's actually growing interest for you between now and then. But it's not as simple as making an offer. It really is understanding, or at least being aware that everybody's relationship to this conversation is different.
That's great. And John, you brought up a point I wanted to ask maybe Cameron and George. Financial education or financial literacy is somewhat controversial because historically it hasn't worked very well in terms of impact. But what has been found is that when you bring in educating and make it more of a conversation and an ability to act on it and be a little less paternalistic about it. Sorry, I'm a little bit on my soapbox here. It can work a little better than the old style of financial education, 10 classes. It's all theoretical. Here are 10 things to do. Go do it.
Yep.
Figure it out. What would you say about financial education and listening and literacy to prepare folks to do this, to start thinking about it and in real, hopefully realize, this is for me. It's not for, I haven't thought of it before, or I always thought this isn't for me. That sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, John, you bring up a really salient point about people's relationship with money. Everybody has a different lived experience and how that might come to bear on the choices or even the manner of engagement. And as I made mention of, we are very thoughtful and intentional about that and the way we want to set ourselves apart with, Chris, what you were referencing, the more common way, let's say, the financial services industry has went about it, paternalistic. I'll tell you what's right. I'm the expert. Let me tell you what to do. It's so much more than that. And getting down to what we think of it, so again, making a person feel like this topic is more accessible to them. However, the pathway that makes the best sense for them is where we try to move things. And it can be different for every individual, which is why we make the one-on-one sessions available to everybody.
Yeah, and I just kind of reiterate that. I think that if anytime you go into a conversation about financial literacy, which I'm with you, like that term, it kind of gives me the ick. But I think that it's the goal should be about reducing those barriers, right? Like that's what you should be taking aim at. And the conversation shouldn't be like, hey, I know what's best for you, right? I mean, there's also an issue with that, but it's like I shouldn't be like, hey, this is what you should do, and if you take these steps, like you'll be on the right track. And the fact that you're not is bad. I think that like it's when we have conversations with people who this may be a completely foreign idea, even saving for retirement, like you said. I mean, why would I put this money in an untouchable box for years when I need to pay my rent? It's a very valid question. And like that question shouldn't be dismissed as, you don't understand the economy. It should be embraced with like, yeah, that's real. Why would you do that? Let's talk about it. Like, are there ways that we can maybe do both? Like we can pay the rent and you can also, put a little aside. So I think that that's just the main goal when you kind of engage in those conversations should be about like making sure that people have access to information that otherwise, they may not have been able to find on their own, just because there are barriers to it, and like the terms themselves can be barriers, like knowing the difference between different plans and stuff. So that's kind of my opinion on it. It's just like you have to kind of enter that conversation as on a high level with them, and like, hey, every valid concern that you have is valid. Like, you're not just wrong in the way you view the world. There's information that could help you make a decision in the long term.
Awesome. Just a really simple question for you both. If an employer decides, and Cameron, you answering for Merit on Merit's behalf, at the employer level and at the individual employee level, is there helplines sort of, can each, both the plan administrator and the employee participant call you all when they have questions and get help? And how does that work? Is it just a 1-800 number, or what can they expect from customer support, I guess?
Yeah, for Merit, there's a line for both employees and employers on the website. And it is like just a 1-800 helpline. I've called them a couple times just with questions about the program and registration. I had a weird, like, just when I first registered, there was a tech issue, right? And I called them, and they helped me through that, which was nice. I've had a pretty good experience with them. I've worked with a couple of employers who've called them and said it was good. I don't know, I can't say confidently about, like, down the road calling Vestwell and asking for, if you're trying to learn more about, like, financial advice, the way George was talking about, right? Like, they can help you kind of figure out, like, what funds you might be interested in, stuff like that. I'm not 100% sure if that service is available or not, just because I've not personally experienced it. But there is definitely a helpline that will you can call to navigate the program.
George?
Yeah, on our side of things, we have at Vestwell a dedicated customer success manager for each of our clients. So it's a little more direct in terms of the assistance that they would receive. And of course, us at Just Futures can always be a source of a resource for questions, whether it is about the platform itself or more saliently about investments. We're here to help in all of that.
Awesome. Great. And what we're coming up on the hour, and thank you all. This has been great. And John, I'm glad you jumped in too. I appreciate you jumping in on the fly. One of the things I think that a lot of folks have to worry about, in this day and age, online stuff, and it seems like I lose my social security number every 3 months. I get a notice. How, obviously the state of Maine is putting its name out there saying, we trust these folks, you should trust them too. And US Federation, George, is a trusted partner. Cooperative Fund in the Northeast uses a lot of their benefits, HRA program, disability insurance, everything. So they're also saying this is a trusted partner. So I think that's helpful, because basically they're saying we've already talked and figured out George and his team are good people. Can you talk a little bit about the trust and how, the systems that are in place so that people know my money is safe now and 15 years from now, say?
Yeah, I mean the investment plan itself, a retirement plan, isn't part of our balance sheet, isn't part of USFWC's balance sheet. It's all held separately at a third-party custodian. So someone said it earlier, that those assets always belong to you as the participant, as the plan. Anything that happens, surrounding that is separate and apart from that. So just talking about the safety of the assets themselves, they're safeguarded by that third-party element.
Great.
Yeah, and for Merit too, I would just say that I believe Vestwell is managing a very similar program, or if not the exact same program, for like 4 or 5 other states. I know Colorado's one of them. I think Oregon, right? So they also, and Vestwell's like a big company, right? Like I would just say, like, yeah, it's as secure as opening a Roth IRA on your own as any other financial institution.
Awesome. I wanted to see, just if we could go 1 minute over, just Cameron and George, do you all have anything that I haven't asked that you wanted to cover that folks should be reminded of or think about as we close out this great session?
Yeah, I'll ask, because I'm not a retirement advisor. I'm not like a financial guy first and foremost. I do a lot of workforce stuff. So George, you mentioned earlier about, like, if you wanted to get into a little more detail about like traditional versus Roth, since it is an option for Merit, if that's something that you could shed a little more light on.
Yeah. If you want me to do it now, I'm happy to do so.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So both are great options, right? Because at the end of the day, it's a tax advantage benefit, right? And the difference, as you described, is how that benefit is experienced and the temporal element whether it's today or tomorrow. So I'll try to make this quick, right? But like with Roth, as you described, you are getting taxed today, right? The benefit being that you're further down the line when you take the money out in retirement, you're not taxed. So hang on to that for a second. Traditional, you are deferring that tax into the future, right? So whatever contribution you make in the current year, you're not taxed in that current year, but later on in retirement, wherever tax rates are at that point and whatever you're pulling down from your retirement, you're going to be taxed in the future. So one way to think about it is, when am I going to get taxed more from my effective tax rate? What's my effective tax rate today versus what it will be in the future? That's one point of difference to be mindful of. Now, we don't have a crystal ball, so we don't know exactly. So we're gonna have to make an educated guess. But that's one element. Maybe a more tangible one, right? The other really attractive aspect of the Roth option is any growth, any dividends, et cetera, that you are receiving and accumulating over the course of time until retirement. That's not going to be taxed, right? In contrast, again, with traditional, you're delaying that out to the future. So if there is appreciation, dividends collected, when you take it out at the back end in retirement, you're going to be taxed on that, right? So the intuition is, the younger I am, the more years I have before retirement, Roth is going to be looking a lot better because of that tax benefit of not being taxed on dividends and appreciation.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, George. George, did you have anything else you wanted to add before we close out?
No, I mean, like, again, thank you for the opportunity to talk about our solution. It is different, but I think it is important to, as we kind of joked about, we have one options in life, right? And different options to make available to our employees in terms of benefits. One last point, and we can talk about this further, get in touch, right? There is an association with values alignment with investing. Am I giving something up? And there is decades of research that is counter to that. And you can Google ESG as a starting point, but we'd be happy to explore it and talk about that in more detail if you're interested.
Great. Awesome. Well, I think with that, we'll close out this session. We're also going to close out this webinar series. And to confirm to everybody out there, all the resources that are mentioned in the PowerPoint in this recording will go out to everybody to be shared. This has been a great series. John and Emmy, thank you for all the work that you've done. And Cameron and George, thanks so much for joining us and helping people make these really critical decisions. So with that, I'll close and say thank you. Thanks all.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.